Chancellor Sinclair, it is an honor to speak with you and just such an honor to call you Chancellor Sinclair. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
You're looking great, and I love what's around your neck.
Well, yeah, bolo tie was created by a student from Queen's University. It's in
Well,
Queen's colors. So
it is indeed. It's really great. Looks really good on you, too. And I remember chatting with you on the phone. Oh, I don't know, was it a couple of years ago, saying, I'm going to take a break and I'm just going to see what happens. And then you got all sorts of invitations coming in, and you said no to just about all of them. But you said yes to the invitation to be Chancellor of Queen's University. What was it that made you say yes?
well, I have to admit, and I've told the members of the council that it was the fact that the call came from the principal, Patrick Dean, who I'd known for years. Patrick and I go back a long time when he was at the University of Winnipeg and lived in the Winnipeg area. So I had come to know him that way. And when he called, I actually thought it was just initially a social call, but it turned out to be initially, and he was quite upfront with it initially, an effort to seduce me into becoming the chancellor. And I said, so this is just ceremonial, right? Like, I don't really have to do a lot of work for this. And he said, well, you can kind of make of it what you will, but yeah, it's primarily a ceremonial role. I have never been so inundated with Queen's Committee meetings and all sorts of other roles for the university than I have been since being appointed. But I have to tell you, it's all been exciting and interesting, and I've met so many interesting and fascinating people that I'm glad I did it.
I want to ask you though about things like changes of name, and in particular the law school. What does that telegraph out to the world? What does it say?
Well, it's not just the names of places, and I think there's a significant issue there, but it's also the kind of monuments that we put up in society, statues that we have in place, what it is that we put on display, what we say about the person whose statue we've erected, or after whom we've named a road or a highway. What it says is that we as a society are proud of this person and are proud to be connected to this person and are proud of what this person did for our country. And then when we find out that part of what they did for this country was to participate in the cultural genocide of Indigenous people and to participate in the residential school process, such as we have revealed in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report, I think causes society at this point in time now to begin to ask itself, are those people we really want to honor in that way? Mm-hmm. And if they aren't, and we decide we want to remove those monuments or change those names, what are we going to change them to? That's the secondary question. And it's probably equal in importance as well, because we have to make a decision about what is it that we want to be known for in the future.
The unmarked graves at Kamloops Residential School, Cowessess, and so on. This wasn't news, because I can just pull this volume of the TRC report, 266 pages, that is about the missing children and unmarked burials, dedicated to the children who didn't come home. And this was something that was important in every national event. And in particular, the last one, you identified 2 chairs on the stage that would not have people sitting in them, one for a boy and one for a girl, representing the children who didn't come home. I know people are asking you a lot of questions about this, but how do we best honor the children who didn't come home?
Well, first of all, I think we have to complete the process of uncovery or discovery of where they are, and be able to give closure to their stories, give closure to their families. That's very important. If you think about how you would feel if this was one of your children or one of your grandchildren or one of your relatives who had been taken away by the government and placed in an institution, and then never came home. And then you found out years later that they died in that place where they were put. But you don't know anything about it. You don't know anything about what happened or how they died or even where their body lays buried. And I think that the one thing that we can say is that it's very important for the survivors, both those who were there and survived, who saw their friends go missing or saw their friends die or heard of their friends dying, but also the families and the communities from which those who did die came from. Very important for them to know the closing story of each child's life, and that's the unfinished business of those children, and we owe it to them to try to determine what that is, and we owe it to them not just as those of us who've done work in this area as former commissioners, for example, but we owe it to them as a society. We owe it to them to ensure that we pay proper respect to them by doing that. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to prosecute everybody we can find. It doesn't mean that we have to disinter their bodies and move them. What it means is that we have to complete their story of life. And I think we all want to know that if this was your grandchild, if this was your child, you would want to know that. And I think that's what we ask for. That's what funeral ceremonies are about. Mm-hmm. It's about sharing with the public, with the family, and reminding the family about what it is that this person did and accomplished, what they meant to us while they were alive. And when we have memorial services, that's what it is that we're thinking of. That's what it is that we want to talk about, is who this person was and why their life was important. And that's what we want to do.
While you were speaking, I was thinking about how during the national events, birthday parties were held for the survivors, which was so lovely. And of course, they didn't have birthday parties in residential school, but remember those events? Remember those great gatherings where people would get up on stage, survivors and their families, and sing happy birthday in their language.
Absolutely. And often I remember that that simple act of giving a cupcake to each of the survivors in the room with a candle on it that was lit, and having them blow it out at the same time. That simple act meant so much to those survivors who were there that they cried. Many of them cried, but at the same time, the others would lift them up by singing them happy birthday. Also, by sometimes it turned into a little bit of a party. You were at many of the national events, and I know that you observed that they would sometimes like have almost an amateur hour. People entertaining the crowd. And I still remember the 103-year-old lady who got up on the stage in Inuvik and played a harmonica, or as she called it, the mouth organ, and played her songs while tapping her feet on the floor. And I thought this was amazing. I'd never seen it being done by a person of that stature before, but and she was so happy to be able to do that for the people. And she also was obviously doing it for herself because she loved the music. But it was a moment where we could bring people together, not out of sadness, but to bring them together in order to celebrate with each other, in order to share their humanity with each other. And out of that have come significant friendships, not only with each other, the survivors, but also with me and with the other commissioners. I get phone calls from survivors still today, just letting me know how they're doing. Or sometimes if a survivor passes away, their family member will call me and just tell me that so and so has passed away, and so and then they'll say, she talked about you all the time. It's nice to know that, but at the same time, it's sad that such wonderful human beings were treated in that way, and so many bad things were done to them, or done in their presence, so that they were still traumatized by it.
I'm thinking about Sarah and your children as well, and grandchildren, and how they will inform you as chancellor.
Well, Sarah now is kind of one of my 7 bosses in my life. So all of my daughters feel that they have the right to tell me what to do, and my wife does. And so just about every female in the family feels that I have to take their direction, and I do. And I think I do it well. But on top of that, my conversations with my grandchildren in particular are really interesting. My children, you know some of them. Negon, of course, is a columnist, but also a well-known speaker in Canada on issues related to Indigenous people and reconciliation. Danae is also a highly regarded consultant when it comes to helping Indigenous organizations come to terms with their needs and their organizational structural matters. And on top of that, of course, she's a wonderful beater and star blanket maker and sewing and things like that. And she's also learning the language, so she's done very well. And Gejik is still involved in her computer coding work, and I think it's been well recognized for some of the work that she's done for her company. But in addition to that, she also has volunteered with the University of Winnipeg to do free coding classes for young Indigenous girls who live in the neighborhood of the university, to come in once a week, and she teaches coding to young Indigenous girls. Wow. And so my kids have done really well, and my grandchildren are stars in my life in many ways, and their conversations with me often make me think about things, particularly about how I can communicate better. I am so looking forward to spending, if I go there and spend a day at a time and getting a chance to meet students and just talking with them informally and getting to know some of them. I'm so looking forward to that. It's, once we get through the pandemic, I think it's going to be the highlight of my retirement. Such as this retirement is. So.
Such as it is. Yeah. Well, Chi Miigwech again, Senator Cuz, the Right Honorable Murray Sinclair. Thank you.
Chi Miigwech. Right. Miigwech.